I never thought my grandson Oliver's first birthday party would be the day my own daughter destroyed me in front of everyone I loved. But there I was, holding that beautiful 1-year-old boy in my arms, his tiny fingers gripping my Cartier necklace while I sang Happy Birthday, with tears of pure joy running down my cheeks. 23 people filled Isabel and Derek's Brookline living room, family, friends, neighbors, all gathered to celebrate my precious grandson's milestone. I was mid-verse, my voice catching with emotion as Oliver's bright blue eyes looked up at me with that innocent wonder only babies have when I felt her presence behind me. The energy shifted. Isabel crossed the room like she was on a mission, her face twisted in an expression I'd never seen before. Pure rage. "Get your hands off him!" she screamed. The singing stopped. Every conversation died. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward us. Before I could process what was happening, Isabel grabbed Oliver from my arms with such violent force that I stumbled backward. My heel caught on the edge of their expensive Persian rug, the one I'd helped them pick out at that boutique on Newberry Street last year. "This child is not yours. Get out of my house!" I tried to steady myself, reaching for the back of a chair, but my hand missed. I went down hard, landing on my back right in front of Derek's parents, Isabel's college roommate, and the neighbors from 2 houses down. My cream Armani dress rode up. My carefully styled hair came loose from its clip. For a moment, I just lay there on their hardwood floor, stunned and humiliated, staring up at the crystal chandelier I'd given them as a housewarming gift. The silence was worse than the fall. Nobody moved to help me. Nobody said a word. They all just stared. I managed to sit up, my hands shaking as I tried to pull my dress down, to gather some shred of dignity. That's when I saw Derek standing by the fireplace, arms crossed, watching the whole scene unfold. And there it was, the smallest hint of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Not shock, not concern for his wife's clearly unstable behavior. Satisfaction. That's when I knew. This wasn't Isabel having a postpartum breakdown. This was orchestrated. My sister Catherine finally rushed over to help me up, her face pale with shock. "Viv, are you okay? What just happened?" I couldn't answer. My throat felt tight, like someone had wrapped their hands around it and squeezed. I looked at Isabel, holding Oliver against her chest like I was some kind of threat, like I'd been about to kidnap him instead of celebrating his birthday. "Isabel, honey, what's wrong?" I managed to whisper. "Don't honey me," she shot back. Her voice was shrill, unfamiliar. This wasn't my daughter. "You've been trying to take over since he was born. Acting like you're his mother, like I'm not good enough." "Well, I'm done, Mother. I'm done with your interference, your judgment, your constant presence. Get out." I felt every word like a physical blow. Interference, judgment. I'd been helping her. I'd been there 3 times a week since Oliver was born, bringing meals, doing laundry while she napped, rocking Oliver when she needed a break. I'd paid for the $85,000 renovation to turn their basement into a playroom so Oliver would have space to grow. I'd been trying to be the grandmother and the mother I wished I'd been able to be when Isabel was young. Catherine's hand gripped my elbow, helping me toward the door. I couldn't look at anyone, couldn't meet their eyes. The humiliation burned through me like acid. As I walked past Derek, he said quietly, just loud enough for me to hear, "Maybe it's time to respect boundaries, Vivian." I stopped, looked at him, really looked at him. His expression was perfectly crafted, concerned, sympathetic even. But his eyes were cold, calculated, and in that moment, something clicked into place. All those little comments over the past 6 months. "Isabel's feeling a bit overwhelmed with visitors. Maybe give her some space this week." She mentioned feeling like you don't trust her parenting choices. I'd thought he was being protective of his wife. Now I saw it differently. He'd been building this moment. I walked out without another word, got into my Mercedes, and sat there in their driveway for a full 3 minutes before my hands stopped shaking enough to drive. 3 minutes of staring at their perfect house with its perfect garden and its perfect facade, while inside, my daughter held my grandson and convinced herself I was the enemy. The drive back to my brownstone in Back Bay took 23 minutes. I remember because I counted every single one, using the time to breathe, to think, to plan. Because somewhere between Isabel's driveway and mine, the shock burned away and left something else in its place. 3 weeks ago, my best friend Margaret had called me at 10:47 on a Wednesday night. "Viv, we need to meet. Tomorrow. It's about Derek." Margaret Chen had been my closest friend for 15 years. We'd built our careers together, me with my management consulting firm, her as one of Boston's top corporate attorneys. When Margaret said she needed to talk about Derek, I'd assumed it was some minor concern. Business advice. Maybe he'd asked about investment opportunities. I'd met her at our usual spot, a quiet cafe in Cambridge. She'd opened her laptop without preamble. "I need you to see something, and I need you to stay calm." What she showed me made my blood run cold. Bank statements, transaction records, betting accounts. Derek Morrison, my son-in-law, the man who presented himself as a successful financial executive, had $180,000 in gambling debts, online poker, sports betting, even cryptocurrency speculation that had gone catastrophically wrong. "There's more," Margaret had said, her voice tight. She pulled up photographs. Derek entering an apartment building in Somerville. The same building. Multiple dates and times over a 7-month period. A woman answering the door. Dark hair, mid-30s, professional attire. The same woman from Derek's company Christmas party, where he'd introduced her as just a colleague. "Her name is Rachel Thornton," Margaret said. "She's a senior analyst at his firm. According to my contact there, she thinks Derek is leaving Isabel. He's been telling her the marriage is over, that he's just waiting for the right time to file for divorce. He's been promising her a future together using what he calls his inheritance prospects." I'd sat there, coffee growing cold in my hands, as Margaret explained how she'd discovered all of this. She'd been handling a case that involved Derek's company. During due diligence, some financial irregularities had popped up, nothing that implicated Derek directly, but enough to make her curious. She'd used her legal resources to dig deeper. "The inheritance he's talking about," I'd said slowly, "he means my money. He's waiting for me to die so Isabel inherits." Margaret had nodded. "There's one more thing. He has a secret account. It started with $340,000. Want to guess where that came from?" I'd known immediately. "The renovation money I gave them, plus their joint savings." "Exactly. He's been siphoning money from their shared accounts for 3 years. Isabel has no idea. The gambling ate through most of it. There's about $47,000 left." I'd driven home that night in a daze. My first instinct had been to call Isabel immediately, to tell her everything. But Margaret had stopped me. "He's been manipulating her, Viv. You've seen how she's been pulling away from you, right? That's not random. He's isolating her. If you confront her now, he'll spin it. Make you look like the jealous mother trying to destroy her marriage. You need proof she can't deny. And you need to wait for the right moment." So I'd waited. For 3 weeks, I'd played the role of the concerned mother, slowly being pushed out of her daughter's life. I'd watched Derek plant seeds of doubt, watched Isabel grow more distant, watched him position himself as the protective husband defending his wife from her overbearing mother. And today, he'd made his move, used Oliver's birthday party to humiliate me publicly, to make the break seem like Isabel's choice, her breaking point with an interfering mother-in-law. But Derek had made one critical mistake. He didn't know what I knew, and he definitely didn't know what I was about to do. I pulled into my garage at 4:37 p.m., sat in my car for another minute. Then I called Margaret. "It's time," I said. "Do everything we discussed." "Are you sure? Once we start this, there's no going back." I thought about Oliver's face as Isabel ripped him from my arms. I thought about my daughter's eyes, filled with contempt that wasn't really hers. It had been planted there, carefully cultivated over 18 months of psychological manipulation. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said. "I'm going to destroy his marriage in the next 3 hours, and when Isabel wakes up tomorrow morning, she's going to know exactly who her husband really is." "Okay," Margaret said. I heard her keyboard already clicking. "I'm sending the first emails now. HR at his company, the bank, his parents, and Viv. I'm attaching the full investigative report to each one. By the time the sun rises, Derek Morrison's entire world will have collapsed." I walked into my brownstone, kicked off my heels, and poured myself 2 fingers of Macallan 18. Not to calm my nerves, they were steady now, to toast the beginning of the end. At 5:15 p.m., I called my personal attorney, James Crawford. "I need an emergency trust established, $200,000. Beneficiary is Oliver Morrison. No access for parents until he turns 25, unless I'm no longer alive, and a court determines it's necessary for his welfare. Can you have the paperwork ready by 7 p.m.? "That's tight, Vivian, but yes. What's going on?" "I'm protecting my grandson from a man who's been stealing from his own family," I said. "And James, I also need documentation prepared to dissolve the joint investment account Isabel has with Derek. She's a co-owner of my beach house in Maine. I need that restructured so Derek can't touch it in a divorce." I heard him take a sharp breath. "You're going scorched earth." "No," I corrected. "I'm going to save my daughter's life. There's a difference." By 6:30 p.m., Margaret called back. "The first responses are coming in. Derek's HR department has scheduled an emergency meeting with him for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. The bank has frozen the joint account pending fraud investigation. His parents called him 47 times in the last hour." "What about Rachel?" I sent her the evidence that Derek is still very much married and has a 1-year-old son. Included screenshots of him telling her the marriage was over 6 months ago. She's not taking it well. Last I checked, she'd already contacted HR herself to file a complaint about workplace harassment. I smiled. Not with pleasure. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. About protecting Isabel from a predator who'd married her for money and isolated her from the one person who would always fight for her. At 7:42 p.m., I did the hardest thing I'd ever done. I recorded a 23-minute video on my phone. No makeup to hide my tear-stained face. No script. Just me, sitting in my study, explaining everything to Isabel. I showed her the bank statements, the photographs of Derek with Rachel, the betting accounts, the secret financial records. I explained how Margaret had discovered it all. I walked her through every piece of evidence, every lie, every manipulation. "Baby, I know you're angry with me right now," I said to the camera, my voice breaking. "I know you think I've been interfering, trying to control your life, not trusting you as a mother. But that's not me talking. That's Derek. For the past 18 months, he's been systematically isolating you from me because I'm the one person who has the resources and the will to expose him. He married you because he saw dollar signs. He sees Oliver as a meal ticket. And he's been poisoning you against me so that when I inevitably discovered the truth, you wouldn't believe me." I paused, wiping tears from my face. Tomorrow morning, his world is going to fall apart. The company will confront him about the affair. The bank will question the financial irregularities. His parents will demand answers about the gambling debts. And you're going to wake up to a nightmare. But I need you to know that I'm here. I'm always going to be here. Not because I don't trust you, not because I think you're a bad mother, you're an incredible mother. I'm here because that's what mothers do. We protect our children, even when our children hate us for it. I saved the video. Then, using the family sharing app we'd set up when Oliver was born, so we could share photos and videos of him, I uploaded it to Isabel's phone with a delayed notification set for 6 a.m. the next morning. Derek didn't even know the app existed. It was going to be the first thing Isabel saw when she woke up. At 8:03 p.m., exactly 3 hours and 26 minutes after I'd been humiliated and thrown out of my daughter's home, I sent Margaret the final signal. "Release everything," I wrote. "Every email, every contact, every piece of evidence. Burn it all down. My phone buzzed 30 seconds later. Done. There's no coming back from this, Viv. By morning, Derek Morrison will have lost everything. I set my phone down and walked to the window. Somewhere across Boston, my daughter was probably putting Oliver to bed, still convinced that I was the problem in her life, still believing her husband's lies. But by sunrise, she'd know the truth, and her marriage would be over. I'd promised to destroy it in 3 hours. I'd done it in 3 hours and 6 minutes. Now all I could do was wait for my daughter to come home. I suppose if I want to understand how everything fell apart, I need to go back to where it all began. Not to Oliver's birthday party, but to 12 years earlier, when my entire life collapsed and I had to rebuild myself from nothing. Richard left me when I was 45 years old. After 23 years of marriage, he sat me down in our Wellesley living room and said, "I'm not happy anymore, Vivian. I haven't been for a long time." He was having an affair with a 32-year-old marketing manager from his real estate investment firm. Her name was Amber. She wore her hair in a long blonde ponytail and called him Richie. Within 6 months of our divorce being finalized, they were married. Within a year, she was pregnant with twins. Isabel was 20 years old when it happened, a junior at Boston College studying architecture. She took her father's betrayal harder than I did, which is saying something. She stopped speaking to him entirely, refused his calls, sent his birthday gifts back unopened. I channeled my pain differently. I built an empire. Before the divorce, I'd been working part-time as a business consultant, mostly helping small companies streamline operations. It was something to keep my mind active while I played the role of corporate wife, attending Richard's dinner parties, fundraisers, charity galas. I was good at it, but I'd never pushed for more. Richard liked having a wife who was successful enough to be interesting, but not so successful that she outshone him. After he left, I stopped caring about outshining anyone. I took my divorce settlement, $1.2 million after legal fees, and invested every penny into my consulting firm. I worked 16-hour days, took every client, no matter how small, built a reputation for turning struggling businesses into profitable ones. By the time Isabel graduated college, my firm was worth $3 million. By her 25th birthday, $5.8 million. Last year, at her 31st, we hit $8.5 million in total assets. But success came at a price. During Isabel's early 20s, when she needed her mother most, I was building an empire. I missed her graduation because I was in London closing a deal. I forgot her 23rd birthday because I was in Seattle restructuring a client's entire management team. When she called crying about a breakup at 24, I was in a board meeting and let it go to voicemail. I told myself I was securing our future, that I was showing her what a woman could accomplish on her own, that I was modeling resilience and independence. The truth is, I was running. From the pain of being left, from the humiliation of being replaced, from the fear that if I stopped moving, stopped achieving, I'd realize I was completely alone. Isabel met Derek at 27. He was 30, charming, well-dressed, worked in finance. When she brought him to my brownstone for Sunday dinner, he brought an expensive bottle of wine and complimented everything, the decor, the meal, even my business acumen. "Isabel talks about you all the time," he'd said, flashing that perfect smile. "She's so proud of what you've built. We both are." I'd liked him. God help me, I'd actually liked him. They got married 8 months later in a small ceremony at the Four Seasons. Richard showed up with Amber and their 7-year-old twins, which nearly caused Isabel to call the whole thing off. But Derek was smooth, diplomatic. He handled the tension gracefully, even making a toast that acknowledged the complexity of family without taking sides. I'd given them $50,000 as a wedding gift, helped them with the down payment on their Brookline house. When Isabel got pregnant 2 years later, I was overjoyed. A grandchild, a second chance to be present in ways I hadn't been for my daughter. Oliver was born on December 23rd, a winter baby with bright blue eyes and the sweetest temperament. I fell in love the moment I held him. that tiny, perfect human who looked at me with complete trust. "I want to be here for you," I told Isabel in the hospital, holding her hand while she recovered from delivery. "Whatever you need. I know I wasn't always there when you were growing up, but I want to do better now. For you and for Oliver." She'd cried, squeezed my hand. "I know, Mom. I know you were hurting back then. I get it now." For the first 6 months of Oliver's life, we were closer than we'd been in years. I visited 3 times a week, never empty-handed. I'd bring meals from her favorite restaurants, help with laundry, rock Oliver while she napped. I was careful not to overstep, always asking before offering advice, respecting their parenting choices even when I disagreed. Derek seemed fine with it at first, appreciative even. "You're a lifesaver, Vivian," he'd say. "I don't know what we'd do without you." But around month 7, things started to shift, small comments, barely noticeable at first. "Isabel mentioned you stopped by yesterday. We weren't expecting you. Maybe give her a heads up before you come over. She's been feeling a bit overwhelmed. She was upset after you left. Something about how you organized the nursery? She felt like you didn't trust her system." I'd started asking before visiting, calling ahead, reducing my visits to twice a week, then once a week. But the complaints kept coming, always delivered through Derek, never directly from Isabel. When Oliver was 9 months old, Isabel and Derek mentioned wanting to renovate their basement into a playroom. The quote they'd gotten was $85,000, which would drain their savings. "Let me cover it," I'd said immediately. "Consider it an early birthday gift." Isabel had hesitated, but Derek jumped in. "That's incredibly generous, Vivian. Are you sure?" "Of course. I want Oliver to have a beautiful space to grow." I'd written the check that week. Derek had handled all the contractor communications, the permits, the design choices. The renovation took 3 months. It looked beautiful. Custom built-ins, soft flooring, natural light from new windows. What I didn't know was that Derek had deposited my $85,000 check into a secret account only he could access. The actual renovation cost $42,000. He'd pocketed the difference. I also didn't know that he was feeding Isabel a steady diet of subtle poison about me. "Your mom stayed for 3 hours today. I think she's having trouble letting go of being the one in charge. Did you notice how she corrected the way you were holding Oliver? Like she doesn't trust you. She keeps buying him things without asking us first. It feels like she's trying to be his parent instead of his grandmother." Isabel started pulling away, canceling plans, seeming irritated when I showed up, making comments about needing space and establishing boundaries. I'd backed off, giving her room, assuming it was normal new mother stress, but the distance kept growing. By Oliver's first birthday, we were barely speaking unless I initiated contact. That's when Margaret had called with her discoveries, the gambling, the affair, the financial manipulation. And suddenly, all of it made sense. Derek hadn't been protecting Isabel from an overbearing mother. He'd been isolating her from the one person who had the resources and the will to expose him. I thought about all those Sunday dinners when Derek had been so charming. All those times he'd praised my business success. He hadn't been impressed by what I'd built. He'd been calculating what Isabel would eventually inherit. When Margaret showed me the messages between Derek and Rachel Thornton, one exchange had made my blood run cold. "Derek, just a few more years. Once the old lady kicks it, Isabel inherits everything. We're talking 8, maybe 9 million. Rachel, and if she doesn't die conveniently? Derek, she's 57, works herself to death. Stress will take care of it eventually. Besides, I've got Isabel convinced her mother's toxic. When the time comes, she won't even question signing everything over to me to manage." He'd been planning this from the beginning, the marriage, the baby, the isolation. All of it was a long con to get his hands on my money through my daughter. Sitting in Margaret's office that day, looking at evidence of my son-in-law's betrayal, I'd felt something I hadn't felt since Richard left. That crushing sense of failure. I'd worked so hard to build something meaningful, to secure my daughter's future, and instead, I'd painted a target on her back. "What do I do?" I'd asked Margaret. "You wait," she'd said. "You let him make a mistake, and when he does, you hit him with everything you've got." Oliver's first birthday party had been that mistake. Derek had pushed too hard, too publicly. He'd humiliated me in front of witnesses, thinking it would be the final nail in the coffin of my relationship with Isabel. Instead, he'd just given me the motivation I needed to destroy him. I'd spent 12 years building myself back up after Richard's betrayal. I'd turned pain into power, humiliation into success. And now I was going to use every ounce of that power to save my daughter from making the same mistakes I did. Derek Morrison had no idea who he was dealing with, but he was about to find out. By sunrise, his perfect life would be ashes, and Isabel would finally see the truth. The emails went out at exactly 5:15 p.m. I know because I watched Margaret send them from my study, both of us sitting in the leather chairs by my fireplace, her laptop balanced on her knees. "First one's to Derek's HR department," she said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "Director of Human Resources, CC'd to the VP and CEO. Subject line, Urgent Ethics Violation Report. I'm attaching the full documentation of his relationship with Rachel Thornton, including dates, times, locations, and the fact that he's been representing himself as separated when he's very much married with a 1-year-old child." I took a sip of my Macallan, feeling the burn slide down my throat. What about the company's fraternization policy? Relationships between supervisors and subordinates are explicitly prohibited. Rachel reports directly to Derek's department. "This isn't just an affair, Viv. It's a fireable offense." She hit send, and I watched the email disappear into the digital void. "Done. That's one." "Second email," she continued, pulling up a new message. "This one goes to Bay State Financial, where they hold their joint accounts. I'm flagging suspicious transactions, specifically the $85,000 deposit that should have gone to contractors but ended up in Derek's private account. Also highlighting the pattern of withdrawals that correlate with his online gambling activity. Will they actually investigate? They're legally required to. Money laundering regulations, fraud prevention. Banks don't mess around with this stuff. At minimum, they'll freeze the accounts pending review. At maximum, they'll file a suspicious activity report with federal authorities." Another click. That's two. The third email was the one I'd been dreading. "Derek's parents?" Margaret nodded, her expression softening. "Linda and Robert Morrison. I'm keeping this one more personal but still factual. They deserve to know their son has $180,000 in gambling debts that he's been hiding from everyone, including his wife. I'm attaching the betting account statements, the loan applications he submitted using falsified information, and the credit card bills." I thought about Linda Morrison, who'd been nothing but kind to me at family gatherings, who'd held Oliver at the hospital and cried happy tears. This was going to destroy her. "It has to be done," Margaret said, reading my face. "They need to know who their son really is." "Send it." She did. For several minutes, we sat in silence. The late afternoon sun streamed through my windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. Somewhere across Boston, Derek was probably still at Isabel's house, basking in his victory, convinced he'd successfully driven the final wedge between mother and daughter. He had no idea the hammer was about to fall. "Now we wait," Margaret said. "Now I make some calls," I corrected. My first call was to James Crawford, my attorney. He answered on the second ring. "Vivian, I have the trust documents ready. $200,000 for Oliver Morrison. Structured exactly as you specified. No parental access until age 25 unless you're deceased and a court determines necessity. I'll have them couriered to your home within the hour." "Perfect. What about the joint investment account?" "I've drafted the dissolution paperwork. Since it's a co-owned asset between you and Isabel, you have the right to restructure. I'm recommending we convert it to a trust with you as sole trustee and Isabel as beneficiary. Derek will have zero access, even in a divorce." "Do it. And the main property?" Already handled. I've restructured the deed. You're sole owner, with Isabel having right of inheritance but no current ownership stake. Derek can't touch it in any settlement proceedings. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. At least financially, I was protecting them. Thank you, James. Bill me for the rush service. Vivian, he said carefully, I have to ask. Are you certain about this approach? What you're doing to Derek Morrison, it's legal, but it's also nuclear. There's no walking this back. He's been stealing from my daughter and poisoning her against me for over a year, I said flatly. He married her for money and has been planning to wait for me to die so he can inherit through her. This isn't revenge, James. This is protection. Understood. The documents will be there by 6:30. My next call was to Thomas Brennan, a financial investigator I'd worked with on several client cases over the years. He specialized in corporate fraud, but he owed me favors. Tom, I need you to compile a complete financial profile on someone. Derek Morrison, age 35, lives in Brookline. I need every account, every debt, every transaction you can legally access. I have some documentation already, but I want the full picture. How fast do you need it? Tonight. I'll pay triple your usual rate. He whistled low. Must be serious. Give me his social security number and I'll see what I can do. I had Derek's social security number because I'd been named as a reference when he and Isabel applied for their mortgage. At the time, I'd been honored. Now I used it without hesitation. By 6 p.m., my doorbell rang. James's courier with the trust documents. I signed everything, had it notarized by the mobile notary James had sent along, and the papers were official. Oliver's future was protected. At 6:23, my phone buzzed. Margaret. You need to see this. She'd sent me a screenshot, an email response from Derek's HR department, sent just 18 minutes after receiving her report. Mr. Morrison, we have received serious allegations regarding your conduct with a subordinate employee. You are required to attend a disciplinary meeting tomorrow, December 24th, at 8 a.m. in Conference Room C. This meeting will determine your continued employment with the company. Please bring any documentation you feel is relevant to your defense. This is a mandatory meeting. Failure to attend will result in immediate termination. They're fast, I said. They're terrified of a lawsuit, Margaret replied. If Rachel Thornton claims sexual harassment or coercion, and the company knew about it and did nothing, they're looking at millions in liability. They'll cut Derek loose in a heartbeat to protect themselves. At 6:47, Tom Brennan sent through his preliminary findings. I opened the encrypted file on my laptop, and my stomach turned. The gambling was worse than Margaret had initially discovered. Derek had accounts with 7 different online betting platforms. The $180,000 in debt was just the beginning. He'd taken out personal loans from 3 separate lenders using falsified employment information to inflate his income. He'd opened credit cards in his name with cash advance limits he'd immediately maxed out. But the worst part was a series of transfers from Isabel's personal account. Her architecture firm paid her via direct deposit to Derek's secret account. Small amounts, $200 here, $500 there, always just under the threshold that might trigger her attention. Over 3 years, he'd siphoned $67,000 from her earnings. He wasn't just stealing from our family, he was stealing from his wife's hard work. I forwarded the full report to Margaret with a single line. Add this to tomorrow's care package for Isabel. At 7:15, I started recording the video. I'd been dreading this part, but it had to be done. Isabel needed to hear this from me, in my own words, not filtered through attorneys or investigators. I positioned my phone on the desk, hit record, and looked directly into the camera. Hi, baby. I know you're angry with me right now. I know you think I've been interfering in your life, undermining you as a mother, refusing to respect your boundaries. And I know that today, at Oliver's birthday party, you felt like you had to make a choice between your husband and your mother, and you chose your husband. I understand that. I do. My voice cracked. I took a breath, steadied myself. But I need you to know something. The way you've been feeling about me for the past year, the resentment, the anger, the sense that I'm trying to control you, those feelings didn't come from nowhere. They were planted. Carefully, systematically, over 18 months, Derek has been manipulating you. I held up the first document to the camera. These are bank statements showing that Derek has $180,000 in gambling debts. Online poker, sports betting, cryptocurrency speculation. He's been hiding this from you since before you got married. Next document. These are photographs of Derek entering Rachel Thornton's apartment. Multiple dates over 7 months. Rachel works at his company. She's a subordinate. Derek has been telling her that your marriage is over, that he's leaving you, and that he has inheritance prospects that will fund their future together. I could feel tears starting, but I pushed through. This is the account statement for a secret bank account Derek opened 3 years ago. It started with $340,000. Want to know where that money came from? The $85,000 I gave you for the basement renovation, he deposited it here instead of paying the contractors. The actual renovation cost $42,000. He pocketed the rest. The other $255,000, he's been draining your joint savings, your personal account, everything you've both earned. I showed her Tom's report. And this is where it all went. Gambling losses, cash advances, personal loans he took out using fake income information. Isabel, he's been stealing from you, from us, from Oliver's future. The hardest part came next. I have copies of messages between Derek and Rachel. In one of them, he says he's waiting for me to die so you can inherit my money, which he plans to manage for you. He's been poisoning you against me because I'm the one person with the resources to expose him. Every time he told you I was being controlling, every time he suggested I didn't trust your parenting, every time he made you feel small compared to me, that was strategic. He needed you isolated from me so that when this day came, you wouldn't believe me. Tears were streaming down my face now. I know this is going to hurt. I know you're going to wake up tomorrow to a nightmare. But I need you to know that I love you. I have always loved you. Even when I was absent during your 20s, building my business instead of being present for you, I was wrong, but I loved you. And now, as your mother, I have to protect you, even if it means destroying your marriage, even if it means you hate me for it. I wiped my eyes. By the time you see this video, Derek's company will have called him in for a disciplinary meeting about the affair. The bank will have frozen your joint accounts for fraud investigation. His parents will know about the gambling debts, and I will have established a protected trust for Oliver that Derek can never touch. I leaned closer to the camera. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to save you. There's a difference. And when you're ready, when you've processed all of this, I'll be here. I'll always be here. I love you, Isabel. And I love Oliver more than life itself. That's why I had to do this. I stopped the recording. 23 minutes and 47 seconds. I watched it back once, hated how broken I looked, but knew it was authentic. Isabel needed to see that this wasn't some calculated business move. This was her mother, heartbroken and terrified, doing the only thing she could to protect her child. I uploaded the video to our family sharing app, the one we'd set up to exchange photos and videos of Oliver. Derek didn't even know it existed. He dismissed it as grandmother stuff when Isabel had mentioned it. I set the notification to trigger at 6 a.m., scheduled to appear as a priority alert on her phone. It was 8:03 p.m., 3 hours and 26 minutes since I'd been thrown out of Isabel's house. I sent Margaret the final message. Release everything. Her response came 30 seconds later. Already done. Emails to Rachel, Derek's boss, his direct reports, everyone who needs to know. I've CC'd the company's legal department on the ethics violation. There's no covering this up. By morning, Derek Morrison's professional life is over. I walked to my window, looked out over Back Bay. The streets were decorated for Christmas, lights twinkling on the brownstones, Families probably gathered inside preparing for the holiday. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Isabel and Derek had planned to host dinner for both sides of the family. Linda Morrison had been planning to make her famous lasagna. My sister Catherine was supposed to bring wine. Oliver was going to wear the little Santa outfit I'd bought him. None of that was going to happen now. Instead, Isabel would wake up to 89 missed messages from her husband, each one more desperate than the last. She'd see my video. She'd read the evidence, and her entire life would implode. I felt sick. Not because I regretted what I'd done. I didn't. But because I knew the pain that was coming for my daughter, the betrayal, the humiliation, the realization that the man she'd trusted, the father of her child, had been using her all along. My phone buzzed. Margaret again. Derek's parents just called him. I can see from the phone records that the call lasted 47 minutes. Linda Morrison is apparently beside herself. Robert Morrison threatened to fly up from Florida immediately to sort this out. Another buzz. Bank has officially frozen the joint accounts. Isabel will find out when she tries to use her debit card tomorrow. Another. Rachel Thornton just sent Derek an email. Subject line, "You lying bastard." She's attached screenshots of their entire text conversation to her HR complaint. She's going scorched earth on him too. I sat down heavily in my chair. It was working, every piece falling into place exactly as planned. Derek's world was collapsing in real time, and he still had no idea why. At 9:34 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Laurent?" A woman's voice, shaky, young. "This is she." "This is Rachel Thornton. I need to talk to you about Derek Morrison." I sat up straighter. "I'm listening." "I just found out he's married. Like, still married, with a baby. He told me he'd been separated for months, that the divorce was almost final. I feel so stupid." She was crying now. "I sent everything to his company. Every text, every photo, every lie he told me. I want him to lose everything." "Rachel," I said carefully, "what Derek did to you was wrong. But I need you to understand something. The woman he's married to, that's my daughter, and the baby is my grandson. They're victims in this too." "I know," she sobbed. "That's why I'm calling. I wanted you to know that I had no idea, and I wanted to apologize. I never would have, if I'd known." "I believe you," I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. "Derek is a manipulator. He's good at it. You're not the first person he's fooled, and my daughter isn't either." "What's going to happen to him?" "He's going to lose his job," I said. "His marriage, his reputation, everything he's built on lies is going to crumble, and honestly, Rachel, he deserves it." She was quiet for a moment. "Thank you for not hating me." "I don't hate you. I actually appreciate you coming forward. It takes courage." After she hung up, I sat in the silence of my study. It was almost 10 p.m. In 8 hours, Isabel would wake up. In 8 hours, everything would change. I poured myself another 2 fingers of Macallan and raised the glass to the empty room. "To the truth," I said quietly, "no matter how much it hurts. Tomorrow, my daughter's marriage would be over. But maybe, just maybe, I'd get my daughter back." I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the streetlights move across the crown molding, checking my phone every 20 minutes. At 10:17 p.m., Derek's phone started exploding. I knew because Margaret was monitoring it remotely through completely legal means, phone records accessible through the investigative work she'd commissioned. She sent me updates throughout the night. 10:17 p.m. Linda Morrison calling Derek. Call duration, 23 minutes. 10:43 p.m. HR department calling Derek's cell. No answer. They left a voicemail. 11:05 p.m. Robert Morrison calling Derek. Call duration, 31 minutes. 11:52 p.m. Rachel Thornton calling Derek. No answer. 11:58 p.m. Rachel calling again. No answer. 12:14 a.m. Text from company CEO to Derek. We need to speak immediately. This is urgent. I imagined Derek in Isabel's house, his phone lighting up with incoming disasters, trying to control the narrative, spinning lies faster than he could keep track of them. Did he tell Isabel his parents were being dramatic? That work was having some kind of emergency? Or was he hiding in another room, panic rising as he realized something was very wrong? At 1:47 a.m., Margaret sent me a screenshot that made my heart stop. It was a text from Derek to Isabel. Baby, I need to go into the office early tomorrow. Some kind of emergency meeting. I'll probably be gone before you wake up. Don't worry, everything's fine. Love you. He was going to run. Show up to that 8 a.m. meeting, get fired, and try to control the story before Isabel found out the truth. But he didn't know about the video. At 6 a.m., 3 hours before his professional execution, Isabel would see everything. I finally fell asleep around 3:30 a.m., my phone clutched in my hand. The sound that woke me at 5:51 a.m. wasn't my alarm. It was my phone ringing. I grabbed it, disoriented, and saw Isabel's name on the screen. My heart nearly stopped. She wasn't supposed to see the video for another 9 minutes. Hello? My voice came out rough with sleep. Silence. Then breathing. Then a sound that broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. My daughter, sobbing so hard she couldn't form words. Isabel? Baby, what's wrong? Mom! It came out as a wail. Mom, Oliver woke up early and I grabbed my phone to check the time and there was a notification and She dissolved into tears again. She'd seen the video, 9 minutes early because my grandson had woken up hungry. Where are you right now? I asked, already getting out of bed. Bathroom, door locked. Derek's still asleep. He doesn't know I saw it. Mom, please tell me this isn't real. Please tell me you made a mistake. I closed my eyes. I wish I could, sweetheart. But it's all real. Every word. The gambling? The affair? The money he stole? Her voice cracked on every word. Yes. He's been lying to me for years? Yes. Another sob, this one so raw it hurt to hear. And the things he said about you, about waiting for you to die so he could take your money through me. Mom, I told you to leave. At Oliver's party, I screamed at you in front of everyone. I chose him over you. You didn't know, Isabel. He manipulated you. I should have known. You're my mother and I treated you like... She couldn't finish. Listen to me, I said firmly. Right now, we don't have time for guilt. Derek has a meeting at his office at 8 a.m. They're going to fire him for the affair with Rachel. When he comes home after that, he's going to try to spin this. He's going to have some explanation, some excuse, some way to make you doubt what you've seen. I can't do this. I can't confront him. I don't know how to... Then don't. Pack a bag for you and Oliver right now. Get out of that house before he wakes up. Come here. But what do I tell him? He'll want to know where I'm going. You don't tell him anything. You leave a note that says you needed space and you'll be in touch. That's it. Isabel, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? A long pause. Then quietly, yes. Okay. How long until you can be ready? Oliver's already awake. I can pack in 10 minutes. But Derek usually wakes up at 6:30. I don't have much time. I checked my watch. 5:58 a.m. Then move fast. Pack essentials only. Don't worry about explaining yourself. Just go. Okay, I can do this. I heard her take a shaky breath. Mom? Yes, baby? I'm so sorry for everything. For what I said at the party, for the past year, for not seeing... We'll talk about that later. Right now, I need you to focus. Pack. Get Oliver. Get out. I'll see you in 30 minutes. Okay, I love you. Those 3 words, ones I hadn't heard from her in months, nearly undid me. I love you too. Now go. I hung up and immediately called Margaret. She answered on the first ring, sounding wide awake. She saw it? Oliver woke up early. She's packing now. Margaret, Derek's going to lose his mind when he realizes she's gone. We need to be prepared for him to show up here. Already on it. I've drafted a restraining order petition. The moment he makes any threatening contact, we file. I can have it processed within hours. Good. And the divorce papers? I have a family law specialist on standby. Say the word, and we initiate proceedings today. I started making coffee, needing something to do with my hands. Let's wait for Isabel to get here. This has to be her decision. At 6:23 a.m., my doorbell rang. I ran to answer it. Isabel stood on my doorstep holding Oliver, a diaper bag over one shoulder and her eyes swollen from crying. She looked 16 years old again, lost and broken and needing her mother. I pulled them both inside and wrapped my arms around them. "You're safe now," I whispered. "You're both safe." Oliver, oblivious to the chaos, reached for me with his little hands. "Gamma!" It was the first time he'd said it clearly. I started crying. Isabel pulled back, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. I left him a note, just said I needed time to think and I'd be in touch. He's going to call. He's going to text. "Mom, what do I do when he realizes I know?" "You don't answer. Not until you're ready." "But what if he—" Her phone started ringing. We both looked at it, Derek's name flashing on the screen. "He's awake," she whispered. "He found the note." "Don't answer." It rang 6 times, then went to voicemail. Immediately started ringing again. "Isabel, he's going to try to control this. He's going to apologize, make promises, gaslight you into thinking the evidence isn't real or isn't as bad as it looks. You cannot engage with him right now." The phone rang a 3rd time, a 4th, a 5th. "Turn it off," I said. She stared at it, hands shaking. On the 8th ring, she powered it down. The silence felt like a weight lifting. "Come sit down," I said gently. "Let me make you some tea. Oliver can have breakfast. And then, when you're ready, we'll figure out what comes next." As I settled them in my kitchen, making scrambled eggs for Oliver and chamomile tea for Isabel, I saw her face as she processed everything. The shock, the betrayal, the horror of realizing the man she'd married, the father of her child, had been a stranger all along. At 7:45 a.m., my phone buzzed. Margaret. "Derek just arrived at his office, 15 minutes early. HR is ready for him. This is happening." I showed Isabel the text. "In 15 minutes, I said softly. "Your husband is going to lose his job, and when he walks out of that building, he's going to have lost everything. His career, his wife, his reputation. The life he built on lies is over." Isabel looked at Oliver, happily eating eggs in his high chair, completely innocent and unaware. "Good," she said quietly. "He deserves it." And I knew in that moment my daughter was going to be okay. At 9:47 a.m., Isabel's phone, still powered off on my kitchen counter, started vibrating so violently it nearly fell onto the floor. She'd turned it back on 20 minutes earlier because she needed to call her office and explain she wouldn't be coming in today. The messages started pouring in the second she powered up. "Oh my God," she whispered, staring at the screen. "Mom, there are 89 messages, all from Derek." I moved to her side, looking over her shoulder. The notification screen was completely filled with his name, message after message, stacked on top of each other like a tower of desperation. "Start from the beginning," I said quietly. "Read them out loud. I want to hear what he's saying." Her hands shook as she opened the first one, sent at 6:34 a.m. "Where are you? Your note didn't say where you went. Call me." The next one, 6:41 a.m. "Isabel, this isn't funny. You can't just take Oliver and disappear. I'm worried about you." 6:52 a.m. "Please call me back. Whatever's wrong, we can talk about it. Don't shut me out." She scrolled faster, and I watched the tone shift with each message. 7:03 a.m. "Did your mother say something to you? Is she behind this?" 7:15 a.m. I'm heading to work, but I'll come straight home after. We need to talk. Don't listen to whatever lies you've been told. 7:28 a.m. I love you. Please remember that. I love you and Oliver more than anything. Then there was a gap. The time between when he arrived at work and when he walked into that conference room. The next message came at 9:02 a.m. and everything changed. What the fuck did you do? Isabel flinched at the language. Derek never swore in text messages. 9:04 a.m. I just got fired because of some bullshit investigation. Did you know about this? Did your mother put you up to this? 9:07 a.m. They showed me emails, reports. Someone's been digging into my personal life. This has your mother's fingerprints all over it. 9:12 a.m. Call me right now. We need to talk before you believe whatever lies she's told you. Or 9:18 a.m. The bank froze our accounts. Our accounts, Isabel. How are we supposed to pay our mortgage, our bills? This is financial abuse and your mother is behind it. I felt Isabel tense beside me. Mom, is that true? Did you freeze the accounts? I reported suspicious activity to the bank, I said calmly. The $85,000 that should have gone to contractors but ended up in Derek's private account. The withdrawals that match his gambling patterns. The bank made the decision to freeze them pending investigation. That's standard fraud prevention protocol. She nodded slowly and kept reading. 9:23 a.m. I know you're with her. I know you're at your mother's house. Tell her this is illegal. Tell her I'm going to sue her for everything she's got. 9:31 a.m. You don't understand what's happening here. Your mother is trying to destroy our family because she can't stand that you chose me. She's jealous. She's always been jealous. 9:39 a.m. Fine, don't answer. But when you finally hear my side of the story, you're going to realize you made a huge mistake. 9:44 a.m. I'm coming over there. We're going to settle this face to face. Isabel looked up at me, fear in her eyes. He's coming here. Let him try, I said. This is my property. He has no right to enter without permission. If he shows up, we don't open the door. But even as I said it, I felt my own anxiety rising. Derek was cornered, desperate, and had just lost everything in the span of 3 hours. Desperate people did unpredictable things. I called Margaret. Derek's threatening to come here. What are my legal options? Is Isabel ready to file a restraining order? I looked at my daughter, saw the conflict on her face. Not yet. But if he shows up and becomes aggressive? Then you call the police immediately. Document everything. And Vivian, don't engage with him. Don't open the door, don't argue through it. Complete silence is your best protection right now. At 10:14 a.m., my doorbell rang. Isabel jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Oliver, playing with blocks on the floor, looked up curiously. The doorbell rang again. Then someone started pounding on the door. Isabel, I know you're in there. Open the door. Derek's voice, loud and angry. Mom, what do we do? Nothing. We stay here. We stay quiet. The pounding got louder. Vivian, you can't keep my wife and son from me. This is kidnapping. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Video evidence of harassment. I just lost my job because of you, Derek shouted through the door. You think you can destroy my life and there won't be consequences? Open this goddamn door. Isabel was crying now, holding Oliver close. My grandson started to whimper, sensing the tension. Isabel, please. Baby, just talk to me. Whatever your mother told you, it's not true. She's manipulating you. She's been trying to break us up since the day we got married. I watched my daughter's face, saw the war happening inside her. Part of her still loved him. Part of her still wanted to believe this was all some terrible misunderstanding. Don't listen to him, I said softly. Remember what you saw, the bank statements, the photos, the messages. That's not manipulation. That's evidence. The pounding stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then Derek's voice came again, quieter now, calculated. Okay, fine. You want to know the truth? Yes, I made some mistakes. I had a gambling problem. I'm not proud of it, but I've been trying to get help. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. And yes, there was. There was something with Rachel, but it wasn't serious. It was a mistake. One mistake, Isabel, and I ended it weeks ago. Isabel looked at me, desperate. Is that possible? Could he have ended it? I pulled up the text messages Margaret had forwarded from Rachel. Showed Isabel the most recent one, from 3 days ago. Derek to Rachel. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Told I the in-laws are visiting, so I'll be busy. Love you. 3 days ago, long after he claimed to have ended it. Isabel's face hardened. As for the money, Derek continued through the door, I was trying to invest it, grow it for our future, for Oliver's college fund. Some of the investments didn't pan out. That's not stealing, that's just bad luck. But your mother twisted everything. She hired investigators to dig through our private life because she can't stand that you have a family that doesn't revolve around her. That's interesting, I called out, unable to stay silent anymore. Because the investments you're talking about? They're called Royal Flush Poker and Betmaster Sports. Those aren't stocks, Derek. They're gambling sites. Silence. You want to talk about the $67,000 you siphoned from Isabel's personal account over 3 years? The account her architecture firm pays into? Want to explain how that was investing for Oliver's future? Vivian, you have no right. I have every right to protect my daughter from a con artist who married her for money and has been poisoning her against me for 18 months so I wouldn't expose you. That's bullshit and you know it. Really? Want to explain the messages you sent to Rachel about waiting for me to die so you could inherit my money through Isabel? Because I have screenshots. Lots of screenshots. I heard him breathing heavily through the door. Then, to my surprise, he started laughing. It wasn't a pleasant sound. You know what's funny? You're so convinced you're the hero here, swooping in to save your daughter from the terrible husband. But you know what I think? I think you're terrified. Terrified that Isabel built a life that doesn't need you, that she has a husband and a son and a home, and you're just the rich old lady who writes checks. So you manufactured this whole crisis to make yourself relevant again. Get off my property, I said coldly, or I'm calling the police. I'm not leaving without my family. Your family doesn't want you. Let Isabel tell me that. Let her look me in the eye and say she believes all these lies. I looked at my daughter. She was staring at the door, tears streaming down her face, holding Oliver so tight he was starting to squirm. Do you want to talk to him? I asked gently. She shook her head. Then, in a voice stronger than I expected, she called out, Derek, I saw the video my mother made. I saw the evidence, all of it, the gambling debts, the affair, the money you stole, the messages about waiting for her to die. I saw everything. Silence from the other side of the door. I don't want to see you right now. I don't want to talk to you. I need time to process this. So please, just go. Baby, you don't understand. I understand that you lied to me for years. I understand that you manipulated me into pulling away from my mother so she couldn't expose you. I understand that you married me because you saw dollar signs, not a partner. Her voice cracked. I understand that every time I felt like I wasn't good enough as a mother, every time I doubted myself, you were the one planting those doubts, making me feel small so you could control me. That's not true. Isabel, I love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have stolen from me. You wouldn't have lied to me. You wouldn't have... She stopped, took a shaky breath. My mother set up a trust for Oliver. $200,000. You can't touch it. Not in a divorce, not ever. And I'm glad, because at least he'll have something that you can't gamble away. A divorce? Isabel, you can't be serious. We have a child together. We're a family. We're not a family. We're a con. You've been running for 5 years, and it's over. I had never been more proud of my daughter. "You're making a mistake," Derek said, his voice turning cold. "You think your mother's going to take care of you? She couldn't even take care of you when you were a kid. She was too busy building her empire to show up for your school plays, your graduations, your birthdays. And now you're running back to her like she's some kind of savior? She's using you, just like she uses everyone." "Maybe she wasn't perfect," Isabel said. "But she never lied to me about who she was. She never pretended to love me while stealing from me. She never manipulated me into doubting myself. And right now, she's the only person I trust." I heard something slam, maybe Derek's hand against the doorframe, then footsteps retreating. "This isn't over," he shouted from the sidewalk. "You can't keep my son from me. I have rights." I watched through the window as he got into his car and sped away. Isabel collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. I sat beside her, pulling her into my arms, while Oliver crawled over and patted her leg, confused by his mother's tears. "You did so good," I whispered. "You were so strong." "I don't feel strong. I feel broken." "You're not broken. You're free." We sat like that for a long time, holding each other while Oliver played at our feet, oblivious to the fact that his entire world had just shifted. At 11:23 a.m., my phone rang. Margaret. "The police just called me," she said. "Derek filed a report claiming you're keeping Isabel and Oliver against their will. It's nonsense, but you should be prepared for a welfare check." "Let them come. Isabel can tell them herself that she's here voluntarily." 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. They were professional, courteous. Isabel explained that she'd left her husband after discovering financial fraud and infidelity, that she was staying with her mother voluntarily, and that Derek was not welcome to contact her. The officers documented everything and left, promising to file a report that would protect us if Derek tried to claim kidnapping again. After they left, Isabel turned her phone back on. The messages had continued. Message 87. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Please give me a chance to fix this." Message 88. "I'll do anything. Therapy, financial counseling, whatever you want. Just don't throw away our marriage." Message 89. "I love you. No matter what happens, I need you to know that I love you and Oliver more than anything in this world. Please don't give up on us." Isabel read the last message twice, then set her phone down. "Do you believe him?" I asked carefully. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Oliver, playing with his favorite stuffed elephant, and shook her head. "No," she said, "I don't. Because if he really loved us, he never would have done any of this in the first place." And just like that, it was truly over. 3 months have passed since that December morning when my world shifted back into place. Isabel and Oliver are still living with me, and honestly, I hope they stay as long as they need to. My brownstone has never felt more like a home. The divorce proceedings started 2 weeks after Oliver's birthday. Margaret connected Isabel with the best family law attorney in Boston, a woman named Patricia Keene, who specializes in high-conflict divorces involving financial fraud. Derek tried to fight for joint custody at first, claimed he deserved half of everything, even threatened to drag the case out for years. Then Patricia presented him with a choice: accept a clean divorce with supervised visitation rights and no financial settlement, or face criminal fraud charges for the money he'd stolen from the renovation fund and Isabel's personal accounts. The bank's investigation had uncovered enough evidence to prosecute, but they were waiting to see if Isabel wanted to press charges. Derek signed the papers within 48 hours. The supervised visitation was a compromise I wasn't thrilled about, but Isabel insisted. "He's still Oliver's father," she'd said. "Even if he was a terrible husband, I can't take that relationship away from them completely." I understood, even if I didn't agree. But Derek has only shown up for 3 of the 12 scheduled visits. The last time was 6 weeks ago. Apparently, being a father is less appealing when you can't use your child as leverage against his mother. Derek moved back in with his parents in Florida. Linda Morrison called me once, 2 weeks after everything fell apart, sobbing apologies. She'd had no idea what her son had been doing. Robert, she said, was devastated and furious. They'd offered to pay back every penny Derek had stolen, but I told them that wasn't necessary. The court would handle restitution as part of the divorce settlement. Rachel Thornton sent Isabel a letter. It arrived about a month after Derek left, forwarded through Margaret to avoid giving Rachel our direct address. In it, she apologized profusely, explained that she'd truly believed Derek was separated, and expressed genuine remorse for her role in the affair. She'd also resigned from her position at Derek's former company, unable to face the professional fallout. Isabel read the letter twice, then folded it and put it away. "I don't forgive her yet," she told me. "But I understand that she was manipulated too. Maybe someday I will." The financial recovery has been slower but steady. The bank eventually released $127,000 of the money Derek had hidden in his secret account, everything that remained after his gambling losses. Combined with the court-ordered restitution of $85,000 for the renovation fraud, Isabel recovered over $200,000. Not everything that was stolen, but enough to rebuild. She sold the Brookline house last month. "Too many painful memories," she said. She's looking for a smaller place in Cambridge, something with a yard for Oliver and closer to her architecture firm. For now, though, she seems content here with me. The most surprising change has been in our relationship. We talk now. Really talk. Not just surface-level conversations about Oliver's nap schedule or what to make for dinner, but deep, honest conversations about the past. 2 weeks ago, over wine after Oliver went to bed, Isabel finally asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Mom, why did you pull away from me when Dad left? I needed you then, and you just disappeared into your work." I'd thought about this moment for years, rehearsed different answers in my head. But when it came, I just told her the truth. "Because I was broken," I said. "Your father left me for a younger woman, and it shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. I felt like a failure as a wife, as a woman. So I threw myself into work because that was the one place I could prove I wasn't useless. But in the process, I failed you as a mother, and I am so sorry for that." She'd cried. I'd cried. And then she'd said something that healed a wound I didn't know was still bleeding. "I forgive you, and I'm sorry too. For this past year, for believing Derek's lies, for pushing you away when all you were trying to do was love Oliver and me. You were manipulated by someone you trusted. That's not your fault. Maybe, but I should have trusted my instincts. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. I knew the way he talked about you wasn't right, but I wanted so badly to believe in my marriage, in my family, that I ignored all the red flags." We've both been in therapy since then. Isabel sees someone who specializes in psychological abuse and manipulation. I see someone who helps me work through my control issues, because yes, I've had to admit that some of Derek's manipulation worked because I do have a tendency to try to fix everything for everyone. But I'm learning to ask instead of assume, learning to support instead of rescue, learning to be a mother and a grandmother without trying to be in charge of everything. Yesterday, something happened that made me realize how far we've both come. Oliver took his first real steps. Not the wobbly 1 or 2 steps he'd been managing for weeks, but 10 solid steps across my living room, from Isabel to me, with the biggest proud smile on his face. "Gamma!" he shouted when he reached me, throwing his arms around my legs. Isabel laughed, pulling out her phone to record. "Do it again, baby. Walk to Mommy." And he did, back and forth between us, over and over, getting more confident with each crossing. When he finally tired himself out and collapsed on the floor giggling, Isabel looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For fighting for us, for seeing what I couldn't see, for destroying my marriage to save my life." She paused. "Derek was right about one thing, you know. You did manufacture a crisis, but it wasn't to make yourself relevant. It was to protect me from a man who would have eventually destroyed me completely." I felt my throat tighten. "I would do it again in a heartbeat. You're my daughter. Protecting you isn't optional." She came over and hugged me, and Oliver crawled over to join us, wrapping his little arms around both our legs. "We're going to be okay," Isabel whispered. "The three of us, we're going to be better than okay." And she was right. I still think about that birthday party sometimes. The humiliation of being thrown out, of falling in front of everyone, of hearing my daughter tell me to leave. It hurt. God, it hurt more than anything except maybe my divorce. But it was also the catalyst that saved her. If Derek hadn't pushed that hard, if he hadn't felt so confident in his manipulation that he orchestrated that public scene, I might not have acted as decisively as I did. I might have tried to talk to Isabel first, given Derek time to spin his lies and cover his tracks. Instead, I had 3 hours of pure rage and determination. 3 hours to dismantle his entire existence. And by the time the sun rose the next morning, my daughter knew the truth. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd waited. If I'd tried to be gentle about it, gradual. Would Isabel have believed me? Or would Derek have convinced her that I was the manipulator, the jealous mother trying to destroy her happiness? I'll never know. But I do know this: when someone you love is in danger, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is burn their world down so they can rebuild something real on the ashes. Margaret came over for dinner last week. While Isabel was putting Oliver to bed, Margaret raised her glass to me. "To the most ruthless mother I've ever met," she said with a smile. "I prefer protective," I countered. "Tomato, tomato. You destroyed a man's entire life in 3 hours. That takes a special kind of dedication. He destroyed his own life by being a con artist. I just expedited the consequences." She laughed. "Whatever helps you sleep at night, Viv." But I do sleep at night. Better than I have in years, actually. Because down the hall, my daughter and grandson are safe. They're healing. They're building a new life free from lies and manipulation. And me? I'm learning how to be the mother I should have been all along. Not perfect, not all-knowing, but present, honest, and willing to burn the world down if that's what it takes to protect the people I love. Oliver calls me Gamma now, clear as day. And yesterday, when Isabel was making lunch, he toddled over to me, grabbed my hand, and said, "Love you, Gamma." My heart nearly exploded. "I love you too, sweetheart," I whispered, pulling him into my lap. This is what I fought for. Not revenge against Derek. Not vindication for being doubted. This moment, this peace, this family, and it was worth every single second.